Part 4. Adjusting the Blocks. Chapter 1. It's still dark outside. The streetlights glow through the curtains, putting a soft spotlight on Sherlock, who is fast asleep on my bed. He's curled up next to Lucas the bear near the footboard, his back resting against the wall, his chin on the bedspread facing me. Even in his sleep, he's watching me, protecting me. I admire his beautiful coat, the dark lines of his eyes, his pointy ears and droopy whiskers. I want to kiss his muzzle and tell him what a sweet, sweet boy he is. And then I get the feeling, the one I've kept buried for so long. I have to get up, get out, go. Maybe I can do it, I tell myself. Not fast, not hard, but maybe I can run. Sherlock. It's barely even a whisper, but his eyes fly open. You want to go for a... I stop myself. Outside? He cocks his head, not entirely sure whether what he thinks I'm asking is what I'm really asking. For that matter, neither am I. Get your frisbee, I tell him. He jumps off the bed and darts down the stairs, but he knows it'll be a little while before I can get down there. I slip on the nylon, then pull on a stump sock. I layer on another sock. My leg's still shrinking, so I need the extra padding to keep my socket snug. Then I put on the liner, push into my pipe leg, and roll up the suction sleeve. It feels solid, but still foreign, like we're still getting to know each other. I sit on the edge of the bed and dress, pulling on my zip sweats, lacing on my left shoe, zipping up a sweatshirt. I'm better at the stairs now, but still very careful. Up is easier than down. Sherlock waits patiently at the bottom, tail wagging, frisbee at his feet. Good boy, I whisper, then leave a quick note and ease out the front door. The air is cool and moist from a light fog. Perfect running weather. I breathe in deeply and close my eyes. Something in my mind doesn't know I can't run. Something inside me believes I can just take off. Sherlock puts down the frisbee and looks at me. He's holding his breath, hoping. I pick up the frisbee and say, heel. He falls into place on my left side as we go down our walkway, but he's keyed up, waiting for something big to happen. When I get to the sidewalk, I turn left instead of our usual right. I sense his confusion, his disappointment. Fetch, I tell him, and toss the frisbee a straight, controlled distance down the sidewalk. He tears off after it, and while he's gone, I take a few jogging steps. It's enough to tell me that I cannot run. Sherlock is already back. I toss the frisbee again. I try jogging again. I make it 10 steps this time. 20 the next. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like running. It doesn't feel like anything but hard work. I think of Kaylee, counting steps. I try again. Try not to count. I feel like a lifeless machine moving forward. I rest at the corner, more disappointed than tired. Sherlock, however, is enjoying the frisbee game immensely, and so we turn the corner and press on. I try jogging a few more times, but eventually I just give up and walk. I tell myself I should be happy with walking. Walking is a miracle. I press on, and then through the misty air I hear my name. It's soft, drifting toward me from the left. Jessica! I turn, and it's like I'm thrown into a dream. There's a mermaid fountain in the middle of the yard, and beyond it, a girl sitting on the porch, wrapped in a white blanket. Rosa? I ask. Jessica, she says again. It takes me a moment to understand that I'm not dreaming. When I do, I clap twice, bringing Sherlock running back to me, and we both head up the walkway. There's a ramp up the side of the porch steps, just like there still is on ours. I can't believe you're up so early, I say with a laugh. Look who's talking, she says back. But why are you out here? I love mornings, she says. They're so peaceful. She's got her eye on Sherlock. He's gorgeous. Sherlock, this is Rosa, I say, making the official introduction. Say hi. Aroo, Sherlock says, wagging his tail. Rosa reaches out tentatively to pet him. He's very friendly, I say, sitting on a bench that's near her wheelchair. Don't worry. Soon, she's hugging Sherlock around his neck, giggling from being slobbered with doggy kisses. You were taking him for a walk? She asks when Sherlock's settled down a little. I shrug. I actually wanted to see if I could run. I eye her and add, which I can't. You will, though, she says with her lopsided smile. I put that article on my bedroom wall. You did? She nods. It's so cool. Then she says, tell me about running. Why do you like it? No one has ever asked me this so directly before. Either people like running or they don't. Either people get it or they don't. And if they don't, they just think people who like it are crazy. Which is okay. That makes us even. But now I have to explain why I like it, and I'm not sure where to start. Running or racing? She thinks, then says, running, like this morning. I try to put my finger on it. Because it feels like freedom? She nods thoughtfully. And your mind travels places where it doesn't normally go. Huh? Like dreaming in real time? I laugh. Never mind, it sounds crazy. She laughs too, so I say the next thing that pops into my mind. I love the morning air on my face. It's one of the best things about running. The rest of your body's warm, but your face is cool. I laugh again. I totally get why dogs like to stick their head out of car windows. Running's like that, but with fewer bugs in your teeth. She laughs again, then sighs and says, I wish I could feel that. What? I kid her. Your mom won't let you stick your head out the window while she's driving? What kind of mom do you have? A good one. Then she says, now racing. Huh? Oh, what do I like about racing? She nods, so I give that some thought and finally tell her, it's electric. From stepping into your lane until you cross the finish line, every cell of your body is charged. Going over the finish line must be wonderful. I laugh, especially if you're the first one there. But it means you finished. You made it, even if you don't get a medal. I look at her. You're very philosophical about the finish line. She gives a thoughtful nod. It's symbolic. I nod too, because I'm sure I know what she means. But then she adds, because it's also the starting line. For some reason, this thought startles me. And I think about all the races where this is true. The 400, the 800, the 1600, all the relay. And it shocks me that I have never looked at it this way. Maybe because of staggered starts. Maybe because starting feels so different from finishing. At the starting line, you're amped, set, coiled. At the finish line, you're completely spent. So the thought that they're the same line gives me a strange feeling. A sort of uncomfortable feeling. Like discovering someone very close to you has been leading a secret double life. Chapter 2. Monday, during math, Rosa slips me a note. Running or racing? Which would you choose? She slips me questions like this a lot. Or statements. Or combinations. Baby steps are blessings. Wind is mysterious. Where does it go? Sometimes they seem so off the wall, but they always make me think. This time I consider the question, but I also think about Rosa thinking about running. Why does she spend her time pondering something she'll never be able to do? Why is she interested in it at all? Why in the world would she philosophize about the finish line? I jot back, running. I know immediately that it's what I'd choose. Still, it's the first time I've actually thought about it. Chapter 3. By Tuesday, we've given up on getting more donations from Gavin's newspaper article. It's been over a week, and they just haven't arrived. Wednesday morning, the bake sale table is missing from the courtyard, and at lunch there's only one person staffing it. Plus, all the baked goods are store-bought, so no one's buying. Then, Thursday morning, there's a message in the announcements. All track team members are to report to Coach Kiro's classroom at lunch. Be prompt. No exceptions. Sounds ominous, Fiona mutters. Maybe it's just about today's meet? She shakes her head. We went over that at practice yesterday. By lunch, I've convinced myself that the meeting is to scold the team for giving up on raising money for my leg, and I walk into Kiro's room feeling dread. Why would my team be expected to raise $20,000? It's crazy. What's worse is I don't want them to resent me or feel like failures because they couldn't do the impossible. Within the first 5 minutes of lunch, over 90 people have crammed into Kiro's room, even Merrill. Guys, Kiro finally says, holding one graceful hand high. I'll make this quick. Everyone falls silent. Item 1, he says. I've noticed a lackluster attitude growing among you. I close my eyes and think, oh boy, here we go. He levels a look across the room. That didn't take long. We've been fundraising for 2 weeks, and already you give up? No one moves a muscle, but I can feel it. Everyone's shrinking away from me. Where's your spirit? He asks. Where's your determination, your drive? You hit a little headwind and let it knock you flat? Hasn't being on this team taught you that around the bend of every headwind comes a tailwind? We just look at him. Item 2, he says. The office delivered this to me today. He holds up a stack of envelopes. For some reason, the helpers in the front office didn't know who to give Jessica's mail to, so they collected it in a box. He smiles at us. So here's our tailwind. The checks range from $5 to $250, and our new grand total is $4,765. A roar fills the room. Item 3, he shouts, and we all fall quiet. We have a patron. Someone who insists on staying anonymous. They have pledged $1 for every dollar we raise, up to $10,000. Wait, Mario Reed says. So that means we're already up to, like, 9,500? Very good, Kiro says. He looks around the room. We are almost halfway there, people. Cheers fill the room again, and this time people pump fists and pat me on the back and give me double thumbs up. Kiro lets it go on for a minute before raising his hand again. Last item. There's more? People whisper to each other. We will have visitors at our meet this afternoon. Channel 7 is sending a local news crew out to do a story on the team and on Jessica. Wait, Mario says again. We're gonna be on TV? Kiro nods. They saw the article in the paper and want to help get the word out. He looks at me. You will be there today, right? I'm smiling and laughing and crying all at the same time. You bet, I tell him as I wipe my face dry. How do you feel about wearing a uniform? I hesitate. It was one thing to wear it at a car wash when I didn't know I was going to be in the paper. It's another to wear it knowing I'll be on TV. Mario starts a chant. Do it, do it, do it. It doesn't take long for everyone to chime in. Do it, do it, do it. I pinch my eyes closed. How can I not? Okay, I blurt out. I'll do it. Yay! The team cheers. Remember, people, Kiro calls out. This is the last league meet. Let's win this thing. From the roar that follows, there's no doubt that that's exactly what they plan to do. Chapter 4. The team is loving having a news crew around. They make a show of everything, especially crossing the finish line. So far, the crew is not talking to me, so I try to forget they're even there and not feel too self-conscious about my very visible fake leg. I do my best to act normal, and I shadow Fiona as she moves from event to event. The only time I really forget about my leg is when Shandel comes in second in the 100-meter dash. I cheer my head off for that because she usually gets edged back to fourth, and the best she's placed all year is third. Way to go, Shandel! I yell as she prances into the infield. She works her way over to me. That felt so good, she pants. Girl, I was flying. Yes, you were. I bump her fist when she puts it up. Flying with flames shooting from your feet. Shandel laughs. Glad you could see him, 'cause I could sure feel him. She cocks her head at something behind me and lowers her voice. You've got company. I turn around and see the TV news crew standing behind me. Jessica? The news lady asks. Her blonde hair is tied down with a scarf. She's wearing a designer sweatsuit and cute little pumas. Nothing like what she wears when she's anchoring the news. I'm Marla Sumner. It's a pleasure to meet you. I shake her hand. She's smaller than she looks on TV, and even prettier. This is my photographer, Andy Richards, she says, indicating the man lugging a large black camera bag, a tripod, and a big lens video camera. He flashes a smile, then gets busy with his equipment. Your coach says you're okay with being interviewed? I nod. Good. She looks around, then points to a spot farther infield. Why don't we do it over there? I'd like to get the finish line in the background. It doesn't take long for them to set up. Marla tells me to look at her, not the camera, and the first thing she has me do is state my name. After that, she's off and running with questions. I'm nervous at first, but since the camera's a little off to the side, I try to block it out and just answer her questions. She's very attentive and nods a lot, and before too long she's done. "Thank you so much, Jessica," she says. "This is an important story, and we want to do what we can to help." "I appreciate that," I say softly. "How do you feel about us coming to your home? I think it would add a personal dimension if we could include your family in the story." I think that would be okay. You should ask my mom and dad, though." So I give her our phone number and thank her again and set out to find Fiona because her heat of the 800-meter has just been called. I run into Gavin Vance instead. "Hey," he says, "I heard the good news." I look down because holding his gaze is just unnerving. "Nice little snowball you got rolling." I glance up. "Thanks. Hey, if it wasn't a worthy story, they wouldn't be here." "Thanks," I tell him again, then start across the infield. "It's Fiona's race, right?" he asks, following me. "You heading up to Rigor Mortis Bend?" I cock my head a little. "Wow, you better watch out. People might start thinking you're part of the team." This seems to please him, and he falls into step beside me as I trek up to the 300-meter mark. I'm starting to feel a little like it, actually. I snort. "Yeah? Well, you've got a lot of wind sprints to catch up on, buddy." He laughs, then says, "But I did take your advice." "About?" "Running for more than just office." I keep moving. "So you went for a run?" He nods. "I've been a few times, actually." He laughs again. "The first one was torture. It's been a long time." We walk in silence for a few steps, and then he says, "You're amazing." This catches me off guard, until I realize he's talking about the fact that I'm walking on a pipe. "Kiro asked me to wear the uniform," I say with a frown. "I'm not trying to be an exhibitionist or anything." "Are you kidding me? Who thinks that?" He shakes his head. "Do you realize how fast you were walking?" The gun's gone off for Fiona's race, so I pick up the pace even more. "There's no stopping you, is there?" he says with a chuckle. "Not where Fiona's concerned," I tell him. "She has been the most incredible friend." I don't know if it's my comment about Fiona or him not wanting to leave me alone on Rigor Mortis Bend, but he stays there with me. I cheer for Fiona on her first lap, and when she hits the 600-meter mark on her second time around, she's trailing the first-place runner from Hartwell, but not by much. When she crests the curve and hits the bend, I can see the grit on Fiona's face, the focus. I shout, "You can do it, Fiona! Pass her!" Gavin cheers her on too, and it's cute because you can tell he's never actually done this before. Words come out, but they're shy. He's shouting, but there's nothing really loud about it. When Fiona hits the straightaway, her head bobs and she bears down, moving out a lane to pass the girl from Hartwell. "Kick it, Fiona! Kick it in!" I shout, and then hold my breath as she edges ahead and wins the race. "She did it! She did it!" I squeal, and I find myself jumping and hugging just like I would with anyone else on the team. Only this isn't just anyone. This is Gavin Vance. And it's my first physical contact with him of any kind. I've never even accidentally bumped or brushed or touched him before, and now I'm hugging him? "Sorry," I say, pulling away. Then I try to cover up my embarrassment with words. It's just, you have no idea how hard the 800 is. There's no way you could get me to run that race. It's the 400 times, too. Rigor mortis bend twice. I have trouble facing it even once. I start moving away from him. Well, I'm going to congratulate her. Thanks for helping cheer her on. And I escape. Not that there's any danger of him following me. Not with Meryl making a beeline toward him the way she is. Chapter 5. Both varsity teams win handily against Hartwell, and the JV boys and girls squeak by. But it's still a sweep, and everyone is pumped. Meryl's nowhere to be found, but what else is new? And since Gavin disappeared with her, it's easy for me to just celebrate the moment with my team. Afterward, Fiona drops me at home, and to my surprise, the Channel 7 news van is parked at the curb. When I get inside the house, I hear my dad saying, "They're still arguing about whose responsibility it is, and meanwhile, what are we supposed to do? This was a school event. It happened on a school bus." I can't believe he's telling them this. The cameraman is getting it all on video. "Dad," I say, throwing down my backpack, "what are you trying to do? Get everyone at school to hate me?" Marla Sumner signals the cameraman to cut, then turns to me. "This is a really important part of the story, Jessica." "No, the story is that my team is trying to do something amazing and positive. We do not have to get into all this negative stuff." She considers this a moment, then has some silent exchange with my dad before smiling at me and saying, "Your mother told me about Sherlock. Could we get some footage of you and him in your front yard?" "Sure," I tell her. Anything to change the subject. Anything to get her away from my dad. After about 10 minutes outside, Marla and her cameraman pack up and take off. I hang outside with Sherlock a little longer because I'm still upset with my father, but when I go back inside, I discover that he's upset with me. He sits me down at the kitchen table. Mom is standing off to the side, quiet. "I'm sorry if you think I'm being negative," he says. "I'm sorry if you didn't want me to talk about the school district's obligation to meet your basic medical needs. But here's the reality. While the insurance companies are dragging their feet, I am working 12, 14, 16 hours a day to keep us afloat. While they're deciding who is responsible for your hospital bills, your mother and I have taken out a second mortgage on the house. It won't begin to pay for everything, but for now it'll put off collection agencies and ruin credit or bankruptcy. Because their lawyers are playing a game of cat and mouse, we've had to hire our own. And he's told us that these kinds of cases usually take years to settle. But if we don't fight for your rights now, you will get a measly settlement that won't include the medical care and prosthetic limbs that you'll need in the years ahead. You're still growing, Jessica, and your body will keep changing. Plus, prosthetic legs wear out. I've researched this, and you will need dozens of legs in your lifetime. At $20,000 a pop, that's not something we're willing to let go or pretend isn't a problem. As your parents, we need to prepare for your future. Anything less would be completely irresponsible. So if you think I was being negative with the news crew, I'm sorry. The fact is, I'm just looking out for you." "How was I supposed to know?" I snap. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" "Maybe we should have," Dad says wearily. "But we thought you were dealing with enough already." I just sit there, feeling awful. I've known that my parents have worries, but I thought they would go away. I figured that in time everything would work itself out. But while I've been living day to day, worrying about walking, my parents have been taking the long view, thinking about my future. Before the accident, my future just meant college. College is something I haven't thought about since the accident, but Fiona and I did have plans. Big plans. And now, thinking about my future, I'm slapped with the reality that attending our dream college is no longer an option for me. My parents couldn't afford it then. I'll never get a running scholarship now. So Fiona will be going there without me. That thought, along with everything my dad said, and the obvious toll this has taken on my parents, hits me in the gut like an unexpected punch. I'm sorry, I choke out. Then I go up to my room and cry my eyes out. Chapter 6. I seem to have long heart-to-hearts with everyone that night. Mom, Dad, Fiona, Kaylee, even Sherlock, although the one with him is pretty one-sided. By bedtime, I'm sick to death of trying to sort through everything, and I tell Dad that he can call the news station back if he wants to. He kisses me on the forehead and tells me for the 100th time that he wishes he could change things. And then, right before he closes my door, he turns to me and asks, "What was Lucy's last name?" "Lucy?" "Sanders," I answer. But as he's leaving, I have a horrible thought. "Wait!" He looks back into the room. "You can't have her parents depositioned or dispositioned or whatever you were talking about before. Lucy's dead. They're not going to want to talk to lawyers. It would mean to ask them to help us." He gives me a curious look, and I can see him trying to stay calm. "Jessica," he says quietly, "I want to see if I can help them." Then he closes the door. Chapter 7. League prelims take place over the weekend. Kiro invites me along, but I'm still not ready to get on a school bus, let alone stay on one for over 100 miles each way. Instead, I help my mom in her flower garden. She's bought pansies and vinca and gazania, verbena, impatiens and marigolds and sacks of potting soil. She's bustling about, uprooting dead plants and weeds and mulching new life into the tired dirt. She's late with her planting this year, and she shouldn't have waited. As the day wears on and the new plants get nestled into earth, her whole being seems to change. She hums. She blooms. Sherlock is out in the yard with us, gnawing on a stick. He seems content, too, ignoring the fluttering birds and occasional pedestrian. I think about the seasons, about the joys of spring, about the cold, hard days and long, dark nights of winter. I wonder if old people ever look back on their lives and see it in terms of seasons. Years of summer, decades of spring. I wonder what I'll see when I look back later in life. Looking back now, I see 16 years of springtime, followed by a deep, sudden freeze. I wonder how long this winter will be for me. I wonder how long I'll have only glimpses of sunshine. I wonder if it'll ever be enough to thaw the freeze, or if the ice will just soften for a moment, then harden again. My mother shakes me from my thoughts. "It's so nice to have you out here with me." She takes off her gloves and holds my face. "My family and my flowers. That's all I need in this world." I smile and try to hold on to the warmth of her sunshine. Chapter 8. Fiona qualifies easily for the league finals in the 800 and the high jump. I had no doubt that she would, but I heap on the praise anyway. Congratulations! I gush on our way to school Monday morning. I want to hear all about it. She's happy to oblige, but catches herself after a few minutes. Is this okay to do? Of course it is, I say. But the truth is, I'm feeling like I really missed out. She glances at me. I'm sorry, I'm being an idiot. Hey, it's fine. I really want to know. I try to jumpstart her by asking, so, did Vanessa dominate the 400? Fiona scowls. Yes, and the hurdles. You should have seen her strutting around. Yeah, well, what else is new? She eyes me. She didn't break your record, though, so nanny on her. I laugh. Nanny on her? Yeah, she says, grinning. Nanny, nanny, nah, on her. Then she adds, oh, and Meryl didn't even bother to show up. Kiro called her at home when the bus was set to leave and her mother said she was sick. Yeah, right. But she wouldn't have qualified for finals anyway. So, how can she say she's part of the team when she's always skipping out or not showing up? It's like cheating. During the day, though, I bump into Gavin 3 times, and Meryl is nowhere to be seen. So I start wondering if maybe I've been too hard on her. Maybe she really is sick. Then, at lunch, Fiona and I are heading toward the courtyard when we run into Gavin again. Hey there, he says, looking maddeningly handsome. Hey, I say back. How's Meryl feeling? I heard she was sick? Yeah, he says. It really knocked her out. He falls into step beside us. Are you guys eating lunch in the courtyard? No, I tell him. Actually, I look at Fiona. I want to see how Rosa's doing. I pull a goofy face. For some reason, Miss Rucker thinks us passing notes in math is a bad thing, and I really need to catch up with her. Which is true. I haven't had much of a chance to talk with Rosa since that morning on her porch. Fiona gives me wiggly-faced signals, but I ignore them. You can go ahead, I tell her. I'll catch up with you later. Then I turn down the walkway to room 402, but Fiona follows, and so does Gavin. Go on, I tell them. You don't have to come with me. Who's Rosa? Gavin asks. She's a freshman, I tell him. She's got cerebral palsy, Fiona whispers. She's my friend and a math genius, I tell them both, and give Fiona a scolding look. She's been great to me through this whole thing. I stop and shoo them with my hands. Go, I'll catch up with you later. But they don't go. They follow me. The room 402 gang is surprised to see all of us. Wow, Miss Wall says. Lots of company. Billy and Trent seem a little uncomfortable with the invasion. They turn back to their lunches and avoid looking at us. But Alicia and Penny don't mind. They especially seem to like that Gavin's there. Fiona and Gavin hang out while Rosa and I joke around. The rest of us have lunches from home, but Gavin doesn't, so I ask him, don't you want to get something to eat? No, he says, I'm good. So I slip him half my sandwich, and half of my sun chips, and half of my apple slices. When lunch is almost over, we say our goodbyes to the room 402 gang, and on the way down the ramp, Gavin whispers, Can you really understand her? I could only catch a little of what she said. I nod. It was hard at first, but now I'm pretty good at it. It's like a dialect. It takes some getting used to, but you eventually figure it out. At the bottom of the ramp, he turns right toward the courtyard, and we turn left toward the 900 wing. Catch you later, he calls, and he seems to be smiling at me. Chapter 9. Tuesday morning in first period, Miss Alloy reads the announcements like she does every morning. Most of us doze through it like we do every morning. Until she reads, "Attention juniors and seniors! The prom is right around the corner. This year's theme is Hollywood Nights and formal wear is required. Tickets will go on sale Friday in the activities office. $55 per person or $100 per couple. This event is open to juniors and seniors only." Fiona and I look at each other, and I roll my eyes. Like anyone's going to ask me to prom? Like I could dance? Besides, a prom dress and a pipe leg would feel ridiculous together. Immediately after the prom announcement, Miss Alloy reads, "All students, be sure to watch Channel 7 News tonight. A very special program featuring our fantastic track team and their Help Jessica Run campaign will be broadcast. Tell your friends, tell your family, and tune in at 5, 6, or 11. Miss Alloy smiles at me. "I'll be sure to do that." A little chill runs through me as I realize that Kiro's almost certainly the one behind the announcement, and that he's probably also emailed it to every contact he has in the county. He has no idea the news crew talked to my dad. Fiona tells me not to worry, but I can't seem to concentrate on anything else all day. During math, Rosa slips me a note that says, "I'll be watching the news." And for some reason, it makes me write back a long scribbled note about being worried and why I'm worried, and how I don't even want it to air. She writes back, "The truth is always okay." I'm studying her message, thinking about what she's written, when I hear, I look up and see Ms. Rucker standing beside me with her hand out. "I'm sorry," I say lamely. I start to put the note away, but she stays there with her hand out, so I plead, "It's personal." Her hand stays out. Finally, I turn it over to her and watch as she strolls to the front of the class, her long nose buried in my note. Chapter 10. At 5 o'clock, Mom's setting the recorder so Dad can watch the broadcast when he gets home. Kaylee is sitting cross-legged on the couch, texting her friends, and I'm sweating bullets. "Relax," Mom says soothingly as she takes her seat next to me. "It's going to be all right." "You sound like Rosa," I mutter. "Who's Rosa?" The Channel 7 News Live at 5 graphics and music comes on. "I'll tell you later," I whisper, and my heart starts hammering madly in my chest. The camera zooms in on Marla Sumner and her co-anchor, Keith Franks. "Good evening," Keith says. "Tonight at 5, what would you do if your teammate was tragically injured on the way home from a meet?" Footage of our track meet with Hartwell appears on the screen. "We'll show you what a Liberty High School team is doing to help their fellow runner get back on the track." "That's you!" Kaylee squeals. It's gone in a flash, but it's hard to mistake me for anyone else when I'm wearing shorts. "But first," Marla says, and then dives into another story. And another. Then there are commercials, and another story. And another. And the weather, and more commercials. And before every commercial break, they run a little teaser segment about the track team. and me. "They're not going to show it until the very end," Kaylee grumbles, texting the whole time. Then, all of a sudden, Marla Sumner is looking right into the camera, saying, "Finally, at 5, the story of the Liberty High School track team and the extraordinary efforts they're making to help one of their teammates run again. You may recall our coverage of the tragic bus accident that took the life of one young runner, Lucy Sanders. That accident also took the limb of 16-year-old Jessica Carlisle." The TV switches from Marla in the newsroom to me walking across the infield. It's shot from behind, and it's strange to see myself from that angle. What I notice most is that my gait is still uneven. Hours before the accident, Jessica set a league record in the 400-meter race, Marla's voice says over the footage. Then the picture switches to Kiro on the field, talking into the news microphone. "She's incredibly talented," he says. "A tremendously gifted runner. Now that she's back on her feet, we want to get her back on the track." "A seemingly impossible dream," Marla's voice says, "only if you haven't seen the latest advancements in running prosthesis." Over a graphic of a running leg, she goes on to describe how single and double leg amputees are able to compete on sleek carbon graphite running blades that absorb impact and store energy much like an Achilles tendon. "Wow," Mom whispers. "She's done her research." "But with this dream," Marla's voice continues, "comes a price tag. With fittings, fabrication, and ongoing adjustments, a leg like this costs around $20,000. But that's where all 4 divisions of the Liberty High School track team come in." Suddenly, my friends are on the screen, waving, angling for FaceTime, hamming it up. "She just wants to run again," they shout in unison. Then Marla's voiceover is back. "But how can a track team raise $20,000? There's a tight shot now of Mario Reed and his friends. "We're doing a bake sale and car washes," they shout. Mario looks right into the camera. "But we could sure use some help." The shot switches to Annie and Giselda, who are introduced as Dynamo Hurdlers and the best of friends. And while Annie and Giselda start verbally tag-teaming, the camera pans over to me, cheering on Shandel as she fires down the track. "Look at her," comes Annie's voice. "She's amazing. Like I would be brave enough to be out here. On that ugly pipe? No way. Like any of this was her fault? Nuh-uh. Kiro says we should always find ways to help others, so that's what we're doing. Big time." Marla's voice is back now, talking over muted footage of me being interviewed on the infield. Jessica also seems to have adopted some wisdom from Coach Kirakowski about the whole matter. Suddenly, my voice cuts in. He tells us that life isn't about what happens to you, it's about what you do about what happens to you. Then I'm out again, and Marla's voiceover returns. And although she's trying hard to do something about her situation, running again will not be an option if she doesn't get a prosthesis designed specifically for running. "I tried running on this leg the other day," I'm saying as the camera zeroes in on my pipe leg. "It was awful, just really clunky." All of a sudden, the outdoor shots are done and they're back in the studio. Keith Franks says, "If you want to help Jessica run again, you can." A graphic with contact information appears on the screen as he continues. "There's a fund set up for her, and it's obviously a good cause. Donation information is also available on our website, where we make it easy for you to make a difference." The contact graphic disappears, and Keith says to Marla, "That is some story." Marla nods. "And there's so much more to it. Jessica's family is drowning in medical bills because she wasn't insured, and the insurance companies are in gridlock over who should foot the bill. The Carlyles have had to take out a second mortgage on their house. Her father's working 14 hours a day, and this is just for her basic needs. It's a nightmare. But it sounds like the track team is doing what they can to help. It's an amazing group of kids, it really is. Well, that's it for us, Keith says into the camera. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching Live at 5. Mom turns off the recorder and says, That wasn't so bad, was it? Kaylee snorts. Are you kidding? It was great. She's back to texting, but she takes a second look at me. You're a celebrity. Oh, right, I laugh. But seeing everything my team is doing for me, condensed into a 3-minute broadcast, has made me feel good. Really, really good. Chapter 11. The next morning, Fiona and I run into Annie and Giselda in the courtyard. You guys were awesome, I tell them. So funny. The word, Annie says with a haughty look, is lively. Yes, Giselda says, looking down her nose at me. We are lively. Indeed, I say with a laugh. And funny, too. Shandel joins us, and I say, Speedy feet, you were on TV. I looked good, too, didn't I? She says with a grin, then hugs me. Girl, I am so happy for you. You are going to have that running leg in no time. Then Mario and Graham and Melanie and Colin and a bunch of other track people join us, and our little gathering turns into a full-on celebration. The whole day is like that. It's really upbeat, really fun. Even Miss Rucker manages to say something nice. Well, for her, anyway. I hope your parents found a good lawyer. The situation's ridiculous. Then she gets back to business, arching one eyebrow as she zeroes in on me. Next note you pass puts you back in your assigned seat. I grin at her. Yes, ma'am. There's an odd sort of twitch at the corner of her mouth before she turns and walks to the front of the classroom. Rosa has rolled up in the middle of this, and when Miss Rucker is far enough away, she whispers, Was that a smile? That may be as close as she gets, I whisper back. Rosa pulls her binder out of a saddlebag. Gavin came into our lunchroom today. He was looking for you. What? He did? I'm embarrassed by how excited I sound. Uh-huh. She gives me a lopsided smile. He's really cute. I tone things way down. He has a girlfriend, Rosa. A really pretty one. Meryl, I know. She eyes me. He could do a lot better. The tardy bell rings, and Miss Rucker wastes no time announcing that there'll be a test on Friday. I groan because I am not ready for a test, not even close. So I really try to focus on the lesson, but I'm having trouble keeping up with Miss Rucker's overheads. Rosa slips me a note. Come over tonight. I'll help you. I nod and put the note away, and that night after dinner, that's exactly what I do. Are you sure you don't want a ride? My mother asks as I'm heading out the door. I'm sure. It's nearby, and Sherlock needs a walk. They won't mind him being with you? Rosa loves Sherlock. She's following me down the walkway. Tell me again who Rosa is, and how does she know Sherlock? Mom, stop. It's fine. Everything's fine. Her last name is Brazzy. She's a math genius, and she lives on Marigold Street. I'll call you from her house, okay? She lets me go, and as Sherlock and I play frisbee along the way, I'm really glad I didn't accept a ride. The air's cool, but not cold, and with the days growing longer, there's still plenty of sunlight and lots of spring color everywhere. Rosa's mother is as happy about me arriving as mine was worried about me leaving. "Jessica," she says after Rosa has let me in, "I feel like I know you from the paper and the news." She eyes her daughter, "And of course Rosa has told me all about you." She makes me bring Sherlock in off the porch. "We can't have him miss the party." I laugh. Doing math does not exactly qualify as a party, but to the two of them it seems to. There's a spread of snacks ready on the kitchen table with bright blue paper plates and napkins. "This should keep your math energies high," Rosa's mom says. I do remember to call my mom, and as I'm getting ready to hang up, Rosa's mom says she'd really like to say hello to her. So I turned the phone over, and she takes it into another room to talk while Rosa helps me tackle math at their kitchen table. Over the next 2 hours, we submerge ourselves in finding the sums of infinite geometric series, calculating iterate functions, and expanding powers of binomials. We also manage to eat most of what's on the table. Finally, Sherlock seems to sense that I've had about all the math I can take for one night, because he nudges me from under the table, where he's been curled up, and lets out a little "Ahoo!" Rosa laughs. "I love the way he talks to you." Sherlock's head pops up between us, and after Rosa's had a chance to nuzzle with him, I collect my things and say, "All right, boy, let's get going." "If you come back tomorrow," Rosa says, "I'll give you a pretest." "What do you mean?" "Ms. Rucker is very predictable." "She is?" "I'll make you a test," she says with a nod. "It'll be a lot like hers. You'll see." If she's willing to do that, I'm willing to try. "Okay," I tell her. "Same time?" "Same time," she says with a smile. I thank Rosa and her mom for having me, then head home in the cool night air. The house is quiet when I get home. It's also dark, except for a little light coming from the kitchen. "Mom," I call. "I'm home." "In here," comes her voice from the family room. I find her sitting sideways on the couch, hugging a pillow. I click on a lamp. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she says with a sigh. Then she tilts her head and asks, "Why didn't you tell me that Rosa has cerebral palsy?" I sit down beside her and take a deep breath. "I was going to." "But why didn't you?" I don't really know where to begin on this. It's been a feeling more than a rational thing, but it's true. I haven't wanted to mention it. I shake my head. "Rosa and I write notes in class." She waits. "So?" "So, I didn't talk to her at all before I lost my leg. I ignored her, but now—" I lift my backpack and zip open the smallest pouch. "Sometimes she writes things." I pull out my growing collection of her notes. They're little scraps, half-sheets, strips. It's a mess, really. It looks like a small pile of garbage. "You keep them?" she asks. I don't really know how to explain it. I sift through the notes. She has a way of... I look up at Mom. It's like she opens my eyes. Mom considers this for a moment. "Can you give me an example?" I'm sifting through the notes again. "Here," I say, pulling one out. She asked me, "If you could change one thing, what would it be?" I look up from the note. Not like a wish. It had to be something real. "And what did you say?" "That I could run again." But when I asked her the same thing, she said, I turned to the note, "that people would see me, not my condition." We're both quiet a minute, and then Mom asks, "Do you feel bad because you didn't do that before?" I almost say yes, but I stop. And in that moment, I understand why I keep Rosa's notes. "Not anymore," I say quietly. "I feel good because now I do." Chapter 12. After Rosa's done putting me through my paces the next night, I feel really confident. "You will get an A tomorrow," she tells me. I snort. That would be a first. "But not a last," she's smiling. "You want to come in at lunch for a review?" "I may just do that," I tell her, because I'm making the connection between training to break a league record and training to ace a math test. Repetition, effort, pain, success. There really is no shortcut. So the next day I go to room 402 at lunch and do my best to volley back right answers to Rosa's ad-lib math problems. She baits me to make mistakes by giving problems with my most common weaknesses, but I pull through okay. When the warning bell rings, she tells me, "You will do great." But it isn't until math class is over that I believe her. "How was it?" she asks when the tests are all collected. I'm afraid to say, "Easy?" "Yes," she says, and surprises me with a fist bump. We hang around and talk over some of the problems, and then Fiona pops her head inside the classroom. "You ready?" she asks. "Oh, I forgot." I turn to Rosa. "Fiona's taking me to Hankenstein's today. It should be my last fine-tuning for a while." "Have fun," she says, and her face has suddenly gone mischievous. I turn around and discover that Gavin is now standing in the doorway behind Fiona. "How would you feel about Gavin coming along?" Fiona asks, her eyebrows going all wiggly. She's obviously trying to do me a favor. It's okay to say no," Gavin says over Fiona's shoulder. "You can go," Rosa tells him. I turn to her and whisper, "What?" which makes her break out giggling. I don't know," I tell Gavin. But Fiona's giving me a secret, fierce look, and I'm feeling a little heady and odd. And they're all staring at me. So I say, "Whatever. If you're sure you want to, fine." Then I turn to Rosa and whisper, "I'm going to sick Sherlock on you this weekend." She giggles some more. "See ya, Rosa," Fiona calls, and Gavin chimes in with, "Bye, Rosa," as we leave the classroom. "Bye, guys," she calls. Her voice is happy, but it leaves a little ache in my heart. She's the one I'd like to take along. Chapter 13. Chloe is happy to see that I've got company, and when I make the introductions, she's excited to find out that Gavin is the one who wrote the newspaper article. "It was awesome," she tells him, then goes on to say how she caught the story on TV. "My friends and I are all rooting for you," she tells me with a big, warm smile. "Thank you," I answer, but I feel a twinge of selfishness. She's so kind and attentive. It makes it easy to forget that she's had to go through an amputation and rehabilitation, too. Not to mention cancer. I change into shorts, and when I return to the waiting room, Chloe says, "Hank's ready for you. Are you all coming in back, or just Jessica?" Everyone looks at me. "Do you want to?" I ask. They say they do, and I guess I feel bad making them stay in the waiting room, so I shrug and say, "Okay." And it would have been okay, except that after Hank tells me how great the TV news story was, the first thing he does is check my socket fit. He makes me sit down and take off the suspension sleeve, and then he grabs the socket part of my leg and moves it around. "You're loose," We need to get you into thicker socks. Off come the leg and the liner. Off come the socks and the nylon. Suddenly, I'm feeling very self-conscious. Naked. Fiona looks down, and Gavin turns away and stays that way. I'm reminded of how awful it looks. It's not red and swollen, it just looks like flesh, but it's still very graphic, very gone. And all of a sudden, I'm mortified. Why in the world did I let them come back here? Fiona's fine, but Gavin? I'm desperate to get this over with, to cover up, to get out of here. Hank has me try on different thicknesses of socks until he's satisfied that my socket fits right. Then we start with the adjustments. I wish for music, conversation, sound of any kind. Finally, Gavin breaks the silence, but he looks at Hank, not me. I saw a man at the airport once who had art painted on his prosthetic leg. It was a sunrise and the ocean. It looked really cool. Wow, Fiona says, then asks Hank, Can you do that? I can do fabric, he says as I begin a test walk for him. Fabric? Fiona asks. What do you mean? Any piece of cloth. It only takes about half a yard. When I worked in San Francisco, people brought in skull fabric, dolphin fabric, tie-dye, camo fabric, you name it. Around here, our clients tend to be more conservative. When I turn around, he catches my eye. We could do that with your definitive leg if you want. It doesn't cost anything extra. I just embed the cloth when I make in the socket. Fiona's all excited. We should go to the fabric store and pick out something really cool. You could do flames or flowers or just a solid like hot pink. I'm holding still now as Hank's tweaking the adjustments of my top coupling. But I really just want a leg that looks like a leg. I don't want flames or flowers, and I sure don't want pink. Hank says, Well, we can't order your permanent leg until your residual limb is completely stabilized. So you have a couple of months to decide if you want a cosmetic cover or an exposed artistic socket. Maybe consider it for your running leg. Suddenly, flames seem like a really cool idea. I grin at Fiona. That I could get into. On our way out, Gavin holds doors open for me and makes sure I'm safely in the car before closing my door and getting in back. Well, I say, as Fiona's driving out of the parking space, thanks for taking care of me. I turn to Gavin. I hope it didn't freak you out too much. Not at all, he says. So, where am I dropping you? Fiona asks, looking in the rearview mirror. Home, if you don't mind, Gavin replies. He's just a few blocks past me, I offer. I glance over the headrest. I used to run by your house to get down to the river. I've seen you, he says. You've got a cool dog. Sherlock, I laugh. He laughs too. And your cool dog has a cool name. Fiona drives to my house, and it's strange. I'm laughing and joking with Gavin like we've been friends forever. And when we get to my house, I'm feeling flushed. Happy. I know he has a girlfriend, but he's being really nice to me. Why did he want to go to Hankenstein's? It couldn't just be scientific curiosity. He gets out of the back seat while I maneuver out of the front, and he holds the door open for me. Thanks, I tell him with a smile. Sure, he says. Thanks for letting me tag along. Then I watch from the sidewalk as he gets into the front passenger seat and drives away with my best friend. Chapter 14. It hits me like a ton of bricks. Gavin wants to spend time with Fiona. Not me. Immediately, I start to make connections. Who did Gavin help with the Welcome Back Jessica sign in the Greek theater? Who's bound to have caught his eye while he was with Merrill at the high jump pit? Who did he cheer for up at Rigor Mortis Bend? Who's always there when he comes up to talk to me? Who is caring and involved and a doer just like him? My beautiful, long-legged best friend, Fiona. Over the weekend, my thoughts grow darker and darker. I feel like a total idiot. What was I thinking? How could I even have hoped that Gavin might actually like me? How could I have fantasized, even for a minute, that things could be normal? I also can't help but fixate on the fact that while I'm hobbling around at home, Fiona's at league finals running. I was supposed to be there. I was on track to win. I try to think of good things, but somehow negative thoughts creep in. They take root so easily, like pesky weeds in a delicate garden. What I need is a run. A good, hard run. To clear my head. To make me feel whole again. Instead, I walk Sherlock to Rosa's. She's just back from a CP yoga class. Something she says is part of her physical therapy program. I tell her it sounds like a lot more fun than mine. It's nice to visit her, nice to laugh a little. But I'm restless and moody, and after about half an hour, I leave. Cheer up, she calls as I make my way to the sidewalk. Your finish line is right around the corner. Thanks, I call back, and I think about that as I walk home. Fiona calls late Sunday afternoon, and I make myself sound upbeat. Hey, how'd it go? Did you place? Nah, she says. I had kind of an off day, and we got second in league. Langston squeezed us out. She sounds very low-toned, very un-Fiona. Oh, I'm sorry, I tell her. There's a pause, and then, listen, can I come over? Sure. I can tell something's wrong, but it isn't until after she's hung up that I realize what it must be. I'm right about Gavin. He's fallen for my best friend. In the 15 minutes it takes for her to arrive, I remind myself what an amazing friend she's been. I tell myself I'm happy for the two of them, and I promise myself that I will tell her he's perfect for her, and that I'm so glad my tragedy has brought them together. I reword that last bit in my mind, then cut it altogether. When the doorbell rings, I usher her in and hug her and congratulate her on an amazing season, and tell her I'm sorry she's bummed. I don't know if I'm actually bummed, she says, following me inside. So what's wrong then? We settle in on the couch. She takes a deep breath, holds it, then lets go. How would you feel if I went to the prom? He asked her to the prom? Not just the movies, to the prom? And when did he break up with Merrill? My heart tries to sink, but I yank it back up. I can handle this. I'm ready for this. It's okay. I'd be really happy for you, I say with enthusiasm. Then, to save her the trauma of breaking it to me, I ask, did he ask you after he dropped me off on Friday? Did he... She gives me a confused look. What? Gavin, did he ask you to the prom after you dropped me off on Friday? She looks horrified. Gavin? Fiona, he obviously likes you, and I think you're perfect for each other. Shut up. I do. He doesn't like me, and he has a girlfriend. What are you, crazy? There's a lump forming in my throat. I feel so wrecked. so emotionally wrung out. She grabs my arm. Mario's the one who asked me to the prom. Mario? I ask, and my chin starts quivering. Mario, she says back. But I thought... I shake my head. Why else would he have come along? She scoots in and gives me a hug. You are worthy, okay? Quit telling yourself you're not. All of a sudden, I'm crying. Thanks, I whisper and hug her tight. Chapter 15. Monday brings some good news. My first A on a test in Ms. Rucker's class. 93! Rosa squeals. Congratulations! She has her usual 100%, but that doesn't bother me a bit. I earned a 93. Thank you so much. I think Rosa's as happy as I am about my grade, and I guess we're being a bit exuberant because Eric Hollander, in one of the seats in front of us, turns around and says, You got A's? Dude, I got a D. I snort. I would have had an F if it wasn't for Rosa. I put my arm around her. She's an amazing tutor. He scratches his forehead. I've been going to the math lab twice a week, and this is what I get. Forget math lab, I tell him. Go to room 402 at lunchtime. Rosa'll whip your grade into shape. He looks at her. Really? Any day, she smiles. I'm good. I laugh because I'm good is not just something you'd expect from Rosa, but it's so true. He frowns at his paper. Maybe I'll take you up on that. I can tell he's in the place I was a month ago. He's thinking that there's got to be some other way to get help, that he'll figure something else out. Something that doesn't require dealing with a girl in a wheelchair. So after math is over, I hurry to talk to him outside the classroom. Hey, I know she's hard to understand at first. I say, keeping my voice down, but that goes away. She's really nice, she's patient, and she's great at explaining math. I'd be flunking without her. He nods. Thanks. I can tell he's still not convinced, so I call after him. You can always take the course again next year. He turns and pulls a horrified face. I laugh. Exactly. Then I call, room 402, lunchtime. As the week wears on, Gavin bumps in and out of my life. He's nice, friendly. I do see him with Meryl from time to time, but he also appears out of nowhere a lot. I try hard not to read anything into his presence, but it's an effort. I try to tell myself that I'm more than a legless girl, but that's an effort too. Then, Thursday during lunch, I decide to stop by room 402, and to my surprise, Eric Hollander is inside getting tutored. I wave a quick hello, then slip out again, feeling very, satisfied? Whatever it is, it feels good. During math, Rosa jots me a note. He is so lost. I jot back. You will save him. She smiles at me, and later I see her read the note again, then slip it inside her pocket. I think about all the notes from her that I've kept, and I wonder if she knows that she's helped me with much more than math. It's nice to think I've helped her too. She will save Eric, and when she does, he'll see her, not her condition. I wish more people could. Chapter 16. Friday morning, there's a message from Kiro in the announcements, commanding all track members to report to his room at lunch to return uniforms and finalize banquet plans. But when Fiona and I arrive, we discover there's a third item on the agenda. running leg money. After checks started coming in from the newspaper article, Kiro drew a fundraiser thermometer on his whiteboard. Only it's not a thermometer. It's a prosthetic running leg, with 0 at the toe and $20,000 at the top of the socket. He's been coloring in the leg with green marker, and anytime anyone wonders how the fundraising's coming along, all they have to do is look at the board. Ever since the televised newscast, I've been trying not to check, but now I can't help but see that the leg is completely colored in. Actually, it's overflowing. Kiro asks everyone to settle down, then announces, "This weekend's car wash is hereby canceled, and those of you who are still baking can stop already." He points to the whiteboard. "Way to go, people! You did it!" A loud cheer goes up, and then he continues. "I spoke with our anonymous donor this morning, and she? I ask. I know it's hopeless, because I've been nagging him about it since he announced that there was an anonymous donor, but I try one more time anyway. "I'd really like to thank her, Kiro. Can't you please tell us?" Kiro realizes he slipped up, but he shrugs it off with a wave of his hand. "I just eliminated half the population. That's the best I can do. Now, as I was saying, our anonymous donor is still going to send a full $10,000, even though we've collected nearly $15,000 on our own." 15,000? I look around the room. You guys are amazing. Another cheer goes up, and after Kiro explains that any extra money can go to helping my parents with my medical bills, he calls Item 2 and moves on to passing out banquet information and checking in uniforms. While this is going on, I notice Fiona and Mario fluttering awkwardly around each other. It's incredibly cute, and pretty obvious that he really likes her. And when people begin filing out of the classroom, Fiona's eyes ask me if it's okay if she leaves with Mario, so I smile and nod, like, go have fun. Soon it's just Kiro and me. "Quite a year," he says to me, and we both laugh at the understatement. "How can I ever thank you?" I ask quietly. He smiles at me. It's a kind, tired smile. "Just meet me on the track next year. That'll be thanks enough." I nod, and even though there's no handshake, the deal is made. Which means there's no room for excuses. I'm going to have to learn to run again. Chapter 17. The rest of the school year sort of fizzles to an end for me. It feels like a waiting game. First, I wait for the prom to be over. During the weeks leading up to it, everyone seems to pair up. Then the only thing the girls want to talk about is their dresses and how they're going to do their hair and what their before and after plans are. Fiona goes to the prom with Mario. Gavin goes with Meryl. I stay home and watch TV. I try to be big about it, but can't help wondering if I'd have a date too if I wasn't walking around on a pipe. I try to block it out, but the thought keeps springing up. More weeds in my garden of worthiness. At the track banquet, the team presents me with a check for my running leg, which is an awesome and very emotional thing for me. But when I go to see Dr. Wells, he tells me that my stump is still changing and that I'm not ready for a definitive prosthesis. I have to wait until the end of June. Or maybe July. The school year closes out with finals and all too frequent encounters with Gavin. I manage to get a B or better in all my classes, even Miss Rucker's, where I've climbed up to 82% thanks to Rosa. It's Gavin I can't seem to figure out. He's still with Meryl, but when I see them together, he looks quiet. When he runs into Fiona and me, he comes to life, laughing and smiling and talking about everything. But Fiona's still with Mario, and I've still got a pipe leg. I try not to define myself that way, but I can't help it. And even though my gait is now smoother and people swear they don't even notice, I never forget that under my pants is a pipe. So the school year fizzles to an end, and I wait. Fiona keeps me moving forward. She gets us preparing for the SAT books for over the summer because I didn't take the test this year, and she wants to retake it in November. This way we'll both be totally prepared. Plus, it'll actually be fun to study, 'cause we'll be doing it together, and we won't have any other homework. I know I'm supposed to take the tests, but it seems so pointless. You don't need SAT scores to get into local JC, which is where it looks like I'll be going. Still, it'll be something to do with Fiona, which is better than doing nothing. Fiona also manages to get us job interviews at Tremont Theater. It's an old-timey single-screen movie theater that shows foreign films and cult classics. A funky, cool place that's run by a bohemian grandma named Greta. I don't mention my leg when I go into interview, and Greta's got hobbles of her own, and doesn't seem to notice that there's anything different about me. She just talks to me about popcorn and pigeons and hires me on the spot. Fiona and I don't actually start working there until school lets out for summer, and it turns out to be a pretty fun job. After we're trained, Greta's nice about giving us the same shift, and we do everything from selling tickets and making and selling popcorn to sweeping up between shows and shooing away pigeons. Kids from school come in, especially the artsy ones. It's kind of nice because even though it's a totally different crowd from the one I hang out with, they take their movies very seriously. And then, at the end of June, Dr. Wells decrees that my leg is stabilized and gives me a prescription for my permanent leg. Which means I can also get my running leg. I go through the same routine all over again with Hank. Casting, wait a week, socket fit, wait a week. But then I have to wait another week for the leg fit. And another week. Hank has decided that what I need is an active foot for my everyday leg, a flex foot, that will even allow me to run. It's not for track work, he tells me, but it's a very dynamic foot. You'll be amazed. But there's a part on back order. A part on back order. Somehow I've almost blocked from my mind that I'm an assemblage of nuts and bolts and carbon graphite. July is almost over when I finally get called in for my fitting. And since, after weeks of proving to her that I can, Mom has finally allowed me to start driving again, she lets me go to Hank's alone. She usually likes to come to my appointments and hover, but she tells me she's swamped. Would you mind? She asks. Not a bit, I tell her, and it's the truth. I love driving. It did take a little adjusting to learn to drive with my fake leg, because my ankle doesn't flex and I have to control the gas and brake pressure by using my knee and thigh, but I'm good at it now. And it's nice not to have my mom in the passenger seat scared out of her mind that I'm about to crash. Plus, I know the appointment's going to be a long one. We've got 2 legs to fine-tune. You've got your cell phone, right? She asks. Right. It's another thing I've had to wait ages for, and now that it's replaced, I don't go anywhere without it. So I'm feeling, footloose and fancy-free. But when I arrive at Hank's, I learn that the running leg is not done. A manufacturer delay, Chloe explains. Hank'll call you in as soon as it's ready. I try not to show how disappointed I am. The thoughts of running again has kept me awake nights for weeks. My heart starts racing, and I just can't seem to settle it down. Some nights I sneak downstairs to watch the YouTube clips just to convince myself that it's not a dream, that I really am going to be able to run. And now I have to wait. Again. But the minute I walk on my new leg, I forget about the running leg, at least for a little while. My new leg is amazing. It goes on a little differently than my first, and it uses what's called a shuttle lock system. A suction sleeve liner goes right over my stump, and it has a 2-inch notched metal peg sticking out of the bottom of it. When I put my stump into the socket, the notched peg pushes down through a hole in the base of the socket. It makes a ratchety clicking sound as it goes in, and then I'm connected. The suction sleeve is locked into the socket, and the combination feels snug and comfortable, like it belongs. And the foot? Under the rubbery fake toes are layers of black carbon graphite that look nothing like a real foot, but the foot flexes with me and gives me some bounce to my step. I love this, I say after the preliminary adjustments are done. I had no idea it would be this much better than my first one. It still looks very Frankensteinish, but more high-tech. Instead of a pipe, it's got a 2-inch wide, flat, black carbon graphite bar. I'm going to need you to come back for fine-tuning like you did before, Hank tells me. And when we've got you dialed in, we'll get you a cosmetic cover. He smiles at me. You'll be standing pretty. I stop walking and take a good look at him. I wonder how I could ever have hated this man. Or at least how I could ever have been so angry with him. Thanks, I tell him softly. Thanks for helping me through this. He smiles at me. I know it seems like a lifetime to you, but you've made outstanding progress in the short time you've been coming in. This time I feel like I deserve the compliment. I've worked hard on my gait, on learning how to adapt, and watching myself in the mirror now, I see that part of my problem was the tools I was using. The old leg was clunky compared to this one. With my new flex foot, my gait looks smooth, my stride confident. I feel almost normal. When we're done and his tools are put away, he walks me out. The one thing I can't build for my clients is up here, he says, tapping his head with a finger. No matter how good the prosthesis is, if the mind isn't willing, the leg won't work. With you, I know I don't have to worry about that. He grins at me. You're going to do and be whatever you want. I thank him again and wave a cheery goodbye to Chloe. Then I walk out of there, this time with a spring in my step. Chapter 18. When Fiona picks me up for our movie shift that night, I'm excited to show her my new moves. Wow, she says after I've done my best runway impression along our hallway. You are smooth. I laugh and do a little dance. It's awesome. So you ready? She asks. Do you need to say bye to your mom or anything? I shake my head. She's out doing something with Kaylee and Dad still at work. Well then, let's roll. The Tremont Theater has a little kiosk in front where tickets are sold. It is attached to the foyer, but it sticks way out, and tonight Greta is behind the window. She looks like a gypsy fortune teller, I whisper to Fiona as we approach. She sure does, Fiona says with a giggle. But something about it is odd. Greta never actually takes a position. She more moves around the place, supervising. I wonder what happened. She never works the window, Fiona whispers. She should, though, don't you think? Look at her. It would be great for business. People would come up wondering about having their fortunes told, and she could sell them on the movie instead. Hi, girls, Greta says through the window. Everything okay? I ask. Sure it is. Just incredibly slow is all. She waves a gnarled hand toward the entrance. Go on. I'm sure you can find something to clean anyway. Fiona holds the door open for me, and when I step inside, I'm struck by how quiet it is. And empty. It's weird. There's no one behind the counter, no one ordering food, no one at all anywhere. It feels like I've stepped into an empty movie set, or into a wax museum, or... Surprise! Heads pop up from behind everywhere, and at first I'm just shocked. But as I start to absorb who's there, I realize it's the track team, and Kiro, and my parents, and my sister, and Gavin, and Hank, and Chloe, and Marla Sumner, along with her cameraman. Well, girl, Greta says from beside me, I'd say the celebration has begun. I turn to her. But what about... She snorts. Honey, the place is all yours. Kiro's heading towards me, followed by the rest of the crowd. He's carrying an enormous rectangular box, wrapped in gold foil paper and a broad blue ribbon. My mom's crying. My dad is too. My teammates are pogoing around like maniacs, so excited to be giving me this gift. Hank grins at me, and through my tears I tell him, You stinker! Kiro hands the box over, and he's teared up too. Run well, Jessica. I carry the box over to the popcorn counter, and while everyone gathers around, I unwrap my running leg. I already know what it's going to look like. Hank and I have gone over it many times. It's going to be a black J-shaped leg with a smooth foot instead of spikes. The spike will get added later when I'm ready to race. It'll also have an awesome flame fabric that Fiona and I picked out, embedded in the socket. So I know what it's going to look like, but that's not what I see when I open the box. The J-shaped part is there, but there's nothing flame-like about the socket. It's blue, with some strange yellowish gold pattern. My first reaction is, this is the wrong leg. But then I see that the strange yellow pattern is writing. Signatures. Comments. Things my teammates have written. Run, Jessica. We love you, Jessica. Run like the wind. You're amazing. Believe. Race me. Welcome back, Jessica. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Jessica Carlisle. I can't read any more because I'm sobbing. Fiona hands me a napkin, and I wipe my eyes and choke out, I love you guys. What did I ever do to deserve you? Thank you so, so much. I lay the leg back inside the box and hug everybody. Everybody. And while I'm hugging, I notice something that makes me feel even better. My dad and Kiro are shaking hands, smiling. A few minutes later, Hank and Kiro make a date to meet me at the track the next day so we can figure out and fine-tune the leg And then Greta turns on some music and we party. We eat too much popcorn, we drink too much soda, and we dance. On 2 joyous feet, I dance.